Have you ever had one of those moments where your desire, your curiosity, or your truth feels a little bit too weird, or too taboo, or too much for polite conversation? Yeah, same. So today's episode is one of my favorite kind of conversations. It's honest and human and funny. And I'm sitting down with poet, writer, and canoe guide, Kate Heskett, who lives in Whistler, BC, and is forever working on their first novel. And Kate is one of the featured writers in a new anthology called Pillow Talk. And it's a collection of real, funny, awkward, deeply human experiences of sex and relationships and self discovery. And so in this conversation, we talk about what it actually feels like to step into non monogamy when the rules you were given never quite made sense. I'm sure that some of you can relate. So Kate shares about their first swingers hotel takeover, the anxiety of showing up alone, the unexpected validation of finding community, and the ongoing journey of building a love first relationship that doesn't follow a traditional script. And we also talk about compersion and communication and the messy transition out of monogamy, and why hearing real stories like these can be so healing and helpful, especially if you grew up feeling like, quote unquote, wrong about how you love. And this episode's honest and funny and a little bit spicy and very real. And as always, take what resonates for you, leave the rest behind. Your relationships are uniquely yours. I hope you enjoy. Okay. Welcome to Nope, We're Not Monogamous. And I'm so happy we got to actually do this because we've rescheduled several times. um, and why don't, okay, let's start here. I'm going to ask you, Kate, to say a little bit about yourself so that the listeners know. And because you wrote a book, which is what why you were like, hey, I wrote a book. Let's talk.
Yeah, it's all mine. It is technically an anthology, but I'm claiming it.
Nice. I love that. So tell us about that.
So Pillow Talk
Yes.
is an anthology created by Angelina Jimenez and Heather Hendry. And Heather, it's the third book in a series. So there are two more. It was a COVID project born of some really bad online dating episodes. And Heather was like, sort of telling a few people about this, and they were like, "Oh, that's terrible, but wait till you hear what happened to me." And then like, "Wait till you hear what happened to my friend." And they were like, "Oh, we should write a book. We should put these in a book." And so she did, with no
Yeah.
like publishing, no experience. She's just full of like, this is going to happen energy. Created that book, and then that was really popular. And then the second one, their themes, the second one in this series is period pieces. And that one was all about menstruating and female bodies and what they do. Um, as a non-binary trans person, I actually found that one quite hard to read.
Fair.
But it was interesting, the shared experiences. And so
Yeah.
this is the third one, and so this one is all about sex and relationships and intimacy, and the it is hilarious, but it's the awful transformed into the hilarious. So
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
those
Funny
moments
in
that
hindsight.
you she Heather did say cringe lit at the launch, as I was like, no, that's not going to sell. No one wants cringe lit. Um, but it's yeah, those moments that we don't talk about because they're taboo or they're shameful, that don't need to be. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're common experiences, and yeah, through that sharing of the the trauma or the terrible experience, you can see the humor in hindsight. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Amazing. That's so fun. What can you share? Not the story, so people will read it, but what is your part of it about?
So I wrote the story Pineapples in the Snow, about a time in my life. Yeah, you can picture it. A time in my life when I was beginning to understand that there were things that I needed, that I could no longer ignore.
Hmm.
And this was sort of coming out of the pandemic and lockdown as well. But
Yeah.
the title, Pineapples in the Snow, as you've probably guessed, is about the giant swingers hotel takeover that happens every winter in Whistler,
Hmm.
which
Which
is
is
where
where
I
we
met
met.
you. Yes. But I've now been to many more, but this is about the very first one. And it's about like what it took for me to show up to that event. And it was the
Mm.
first swingers open event that I'd ever been to. And I showed up by myself, and I had to leave my partner at home because he didn't want to come. And sort of, it's also got some choice samples of the experiences I had once I got there. Yeah.
That's
I did
amazing.
actually meet my current partners at that event, but the editor
Uh-huh.
cut them. So the editor was like, "Nah, we think the story ends here." Like, okay. So it's
Yeah.
mostly about me and my friends, Zach and Amy, who we're still very good friends today, and what that kind of meant to me.
Oh, I love that. That's amazing. It's so good. I'm curious. So I think that was the year before I met you, was your first
Yes,
year
yeah.
going. And this is the Swinger Open Poly, for those who don't know. Swinger Open Poly's winter lifestyle takeover. Is that what it's called?
It's called the winter, yeah, the winter
Yeah,
lifestyle
winter
takeover.
lifestyle takeover. Um, which was my first like hotel takeover as well. And I think it was the year after your first one
I
that we
met
met.
you. I met you in Amy's room.
Yeah, yeah,
Zach and Amy's room.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So fun.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious what so I always like to ask people what their like relationship with non-monogamy is. Like
Mhm.
what does non-monogamous mean to you? What flavor of it are you
Mm.
playing with, or like what kind of labels do you like? Like what's your non-monogamy?
So non-monogamy as a and there's many realms of it. Non-monogamy as
Mhm.
encompassing everything that isn't monogamy, which is a
Right.
lot. It's
Yeah.
a lot. There's a lot of different flavors. But I always knew that monogamy made no sense to me. Like the moment I was a teenager and dating and like the rules didn't make sense to me. And maybe with the ADHD, it was like, oh, well, you're dating this person, so you can't kiss this person. Okay, that's kind of straightforward. But oh, you shouldn't be spending so much time with this person you're not dating, or you shouldn't, expose your body to someone who's not. I'm like, it's my body, it's fine. Like, I don't understand. And then like continually getting tripped up for cheating on people when I was like, how does that count? That doesn't make sense. These
Right.
rules make no sense. So monogamy just never made sense to my brain. But I persisted with it for a really long time because we all want to be loved, and I didn't have an option. And it was also my first toe dip into like the queer realm. So I showed
Yeah.
up at a queer meet and greet thinking I'm not monogamous, having had no practice. And it was through hanging out with those people that I was like, oh, actually, I think I might be bisexual as well. And then, oh, actually, I'm non-binary as well. And there's this whole other realm.
Look at
But
all the options available. I can pick
yeah,
them. I can
the
choose them.
the benefits of Whistler, because I grew up in Australia, in Melbourne, and it always like it was the 90s, so um, bisexual was for girls looking for attention.
Yep.
That was it. And if you were gay, that was bad. They were the options. But like I had a couple of friends who were gay, gay women, and they were like, it just felt really not welcoming. It was like, gay women look like this, and we do this, and we hang out here, and so Whistler being such a small town, it was like to have any kind of queer group, you had to really embrace everybody and all allies, and like anybody who's interested at all in this realm come together, and that
Yeah.
that was really helpful for me because there were no non-monogamous queer groups that I'd ever seen.
Right.
Um, yeah, so that, I mean, still exploring what it means to me. I'm in a relationship, there's three of us. So my partner, Sean, who I met at the takeover and who our relationship started at swinger parties he used to have at his house. So we would meet there for a couple of years before we ever started dating. And then
Mm-hmm.
his girlfriend, Felicia, and they've been dating for a couple of years when I met them at the hotel takeover. So we have, I like to think that the three of us get along really well. So the three of us have a relationship, but we also have separate relationships. So
Mm-hmm.
she has, Felicia has her relationship with Sean, and I have my relationship with Sean. And then Felicia and I have a very fledgling relationship because our schedules have never lined up, and they both live 2.5 hours from where I live.
Mm.
So we are forever navigating what it means to be not monogamous. For us, it's like love first.
Mm-hmm.
and I we run into some trouble at these sort of swinger based events because showing up to a swinger event with couples who are married or like seriously committed and being like, we don't have any rules, really freaks them out.
Uh-huh.
Really freaks them out.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like that's one of the first questions that people ask. Like, what are you looking for and what are your rules?
Yeah, which is good. Like, I ask people that because I don't want to rock the boat
Sure.
because, as mentioned, like things that should be obvious rules that just don't compute in my head because they don't actually make logical, objective sense. They're
Mm-hmm.
like socially learned things, which I'm not good at. Um, yeah, that freaks people out. So
Yeah.
we try and swing as a three, but we have had no luck because either it's too confusing or um we sometimes the guys are just like two women, what are we supposed to do with that, the performance anxiety? Not that they
Mm-hmm.
would ever admit it, but I think that's a thing. Because you meet some people and one person, like some people are like, yeah, like two, I can do this, and some people are like, oh, it's like, but we also play separately, so we would,
Yeah.
it doesn't happen often because we don't see each other enough. So by the time we get to these events, we're so excited to see each other, we end up hanging out together. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, that is kind of the deal. It's just love first. Like we communicate anything that we think the other people should know,
Mm-hmm.
especially around sexual safety. Like that's always a first one. But usually we're
Absolutely.
like so excited. We're also a bunch of perverts, which helps. So like
Uh-huh.
the first time that Felicia kind of entered, the first time we played as a three was because Sean and I were downstairs late at one of his parties, which was the downstairs was the play area. And Felicia got out of bed and was like, "Oh, I wonder where he is," and came looking. And this like little head just peeps around the door and is like, and we're like, "Hi." She was like, "Do you want to come in?" She's like, "Okay." But she has this insane ability to, her compersion is so great that she can get off just by watching the person she loves be with somebody else.
That's
She
amazing.
finds that really hot. And so, and I also enjoy watching my partners with other people, and so does Sean. So I don't know, maybe at some point, if we found a partner that was like, we really want to close the door on this, the rest of us might be at the door going, but, because we're
Wait.
just, I want to see, not because I need to know what you're doing with this other person. Actually, no, it's almost the same thing. It's not like, oh, are you doing something that we don't do or that is sacred to us? It's like, I just want to see what pervy shit you guys are up to.
Right? What's happening though? I
What's
wanna I wanna
happening?
see.
Yeah, I mean, we usually get a pretty good blow by blow afterwards if we weren't there for some reason. But yeah, that might be a boundary for us, being physically excluded from a space. I don't know. We'll have to cross it when we get
Interesting.
there.
That's so fun because people like there's such a wide variety of how people relate and right like the things that turn them on or don't turn them on and like some people are like no I want to know nothing about what you've got going on. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
which
only sex
baffles
I'm
my
interested
mind.
in is the sex I'm having.
I was always that partner that was like, so what did you used to get up to with this ex? Like any like, what did you? Yeah, I think I would struggle if there were no details. If I had a partner that had another partner and there were no details.
Right.
Um, it's a balance because you don't want to. I think we're more concerned about not interfering, but stepping over lines that are more like intimate moments. Like I don't want to
Sure.
intrude. That's the word. Intrude on like Sean and Felicia's intimate moments together.
Sure. Yeah.
But for us, there's a whole lot of sexy things that happen that are not in that zone.
Right. Right. I wonder is like I mean that's voyeurism, right? Kind
Yeah.
of.
Oh yeah.
I mean, yeah. Even like hearing about it is still voyeurism, I think.
And we, in the bedroom, we often recount the things that we've seen or we've observed. Like that's part of our the things that we enjoy.
That's a skill I teach a lot of my clients is the recap
Oh,
after
the
sex.
recap.
Like what was great? Like what do you want more of? Is there anything you would have wanted different? What was your favorite thing? Like it's such an important skill and too many people like we grow up being told not to talk about sex, right? And then people take that into their relationships. They're still scared to talk about sex, but like
Yep.
it only gets hotter if you talk about it. Pillow
Many,
talk.
many hot, sexy, graphic things. Like my story is in the middle, in the medium of the graphic sex that happens in this book.
Really?
It is, yeah, I held back a little bit, just because I work at the library and the book's going to be at the library. And so, like, and the launch was at the library. So my reading happened as my colleagues were exiting the building. Um, and I work with some really great people who know definitely more than they need or want to know about my life and my partners, but the actual sex scenes, I was like, but also like, I work in the kids area sometimes, and I'm promoting this
Yeah.
book, and then I don't know. At some point, those stories will come out. That's maybe more fictionalized, just a step removed.
Right.
With like, yeah,
This
but
character that I wrote about.
yeah, yeah, because these are all true stories. So Pillow Talk is
Right.
all people's true stories. And in the audiobook, you get to hear people read their own stories. We were lucky we
Oh, I
secured a
love that.
grant to do a proper like um professional recording.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can hear people read their own stories.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's
And there's a
so good. I
few
love a good
poly
audiobook.
stories in there. There's at least two
Mhm.
others. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Amazing. What would you say has been the biggest like challenge of opening up of being polyamorous, non-monogamous? Like what's been the hardest part of that?
Transitioning? Yeah, away from because I was in a long-term relationship when
Mhm.
I just put my foot down and said so when I met him, when I met my ex, I'd been through like serial monogamy, the ones that
Mhm.
last like 4 years and then they go off and immediately marry someone else. That's the kick in the
Yeah.
guts. But yeah, so I ended that relationship and I said right at the start, like, hey, just so you know, I'm not monogamous.
Yeah.
I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what that means for me, but monogamy is not for me. And he went, yeah, 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 cool, cool. No worries. And then 6 months later turned around and said, so I love you too much for that to be okay. And it was like, it's like the double barrel. It's like, that's lovely. And also,
Mm.
now what? What? Now what?
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
so that was really hard. So we ended up doing COVID together, and I'm so grateful that I had him for COVID. And we're
Yeah.
still good friends, and I love him dearly. But when I think it was when the world opened up, he decided he couldn't, and I just was like, I can no longer pretend that this is who I am or what I
Mhm.
want from life. But I tried to bring him with me. So we did like the polymono for a while.
Yeah.
And I did all the reading and joined the support, like online support groups, and did as much as I could, and like all the food analogies, and like, love's in a pie. Just there's not a certain number of slices. But he wasn't on board. But in retrospect, he now frames that as you were cheating on me. I'm like, how? How is that me cheating on you? Because I told you all the things. I asked you the things. Like, yeah, granted, something you didn't say yet. There was no enthusiastic consent, that's for sure.
Sure,
Like looking
sure.
back, you can flag the things that you do that were not the best. But we do what we can. Relationships are hard. Um, but yeah, that's how he sees it. He's like, well, if you knew that's where you were going, I didn't want it. Why didn't you just break up with me? It's never occurred to me, right? Because I didn't
Right.
want to break up with him, so I just assumed that that was his. If that's what he wanted. But it's been a learning curve to be like, just like, I've always operated on verbal consent and communication,
Yeah.
and to go back and go, okay, I probably knew that. Whereas in my brain, I was like, he hasn't said anything, so we're still trying. But
Right. Right.
like reading, I don't like making decisions for other people, but like it was a tricky one. So that transition was really hard. And so
Yeah.
we were still dating while I was attending parties. It was like a whole pass thing, like one of those awful movies where you're like, I need a whole, it's in a different postcode. Um,
Right.
yeah, so we did that for, I don't know, 18 months.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like so like it's like the journey to actually embracing what is authentic and true for you regardless of I don't know, I always think like when I'm working with people, I'm working with the people in the
Mhm.
relationship and not working to preserve the relationship. I'm not working in service of a relationship. It's the people that are in it. And maybe being together is what's best for them and maybe it's not. But like you have to find what is true for each individual, which I think is the work for most people actually. And
Yeah.
is also part of the one of the hardest parts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then add in that I've chosen to live in Whistler, kind of not intentionally. I'm one of those Australians that showed up for a month of snowboarding and didn't go home. And that was 9 years ago now. But housing was a real thing. Like
Yeah.
we were living together in his dad's house that his dad built when like the land was first allotted. Um, so even though my relationship with him, we broke up what, 2023, I think, like September 2023. I only just moved out of that house 2 months ago.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
taken that long. So we've managed to maintain a like working home life. But yeah, it's
Figuring out.
the things you do to live your poly life. It's
Yeah.
I like to think of it as, because you tell anybody and they're like, oh my gosh, so much drama. Like it's like drama multiplied. Like any amount of drama you have, add another person and that multiplies the drama.
Yeah.
But you get the same multiplication in the good times too. That's the
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
every time everything is hard, I just try and remind myself that that's just the other side of the coin for all those good times.
Uh-huh. Yeah. 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 You get the good with the bad.
Uh,
Um, have there been okay, tell me this. Have there been any like inappropriate, awkward, intrusive, weird things that anybody has said to you about your relationship style?
Um, the worst things are not said to me. They're said to Sean in my presence. It's the dude
What?
bros. It's the dude bros at the party. Like, yeah, like must be great. Like two women. Like, and Sean's such great. He's like, well, yeah, but it's a lot of work. Like, it's not,
Yeah.
like, like, like,
Double the
oh,
work.
but you just like get it whatever you want. Like, it's like, yes, and
Let's see. I have two more questions for you.
okay.
First one is there anything that I haven't asked you that you want to share?
I am working on a novel. I probably say forever working on my first novel. So
Sure.
I've part of finally getting my own space is that that's supposed to happen. But I'm putting together a novel that is about the kind of swinger space. So I'm really interested in because I've spent a lot of time in the swinger space. We've got a lot of good friends in the swinger space, but
Yeah.
and it is swinger open poly, this one that we hang out in, but we're in the minority
Mhm.
as poly
Yeah.
folk. Uh, like I know that you and Rob have hosted poly meet and greets at these places and
Uh-huh.
at these hotel events, and sometimes we show up and there's like no one there. it's,
Yeah.
it's just
5
us.
people.
Yeah.
Out
But
of the,
then,
what, 300 that are there?
yeah, like, yeah, we get two more. That'd be great. But I remember the first hotel event that I did with Sean. So there was a year where he was supposed to be going with someone else, and I'd booked my own room, and then it just so happened that his someone else didn't want to go anymore. And so we had to navigate, like, this is a very new relationship. I'd planned to have my own room for all the things that like the freedom that gives me. Like, do I want to throw in my cards with him? And I did. So I got my first "I love you" at the hotel takeover
Oh.
because he was so touched that I'd thought about it and then chosen him.
Yeah.
Um, which is one of the I never realized. I was always told, like, to get the safety, you couldn't have so much freedom. That was always my if I commit to someone, what am I giving up? And so I got to a
Right.
point of I'm not willing to give up things anymore because that relationship might end. And it's okay
Mm.
that it ends because I've reconciled myself to having less certainty. I think being poly, you just don't get that level of certainty. And I
Yeah.
think it would happen being kind of disillusioned with, like, thinking that monogamy was kind of a strange and not very solid construct to begin with. I never had that certainty. Like, my parents' marriage didn't last particularly long.
Right.
And all the cheating that happens, it's like, this is just crazy. Um, but if I don't have that certainty, then I'm not willing to give up as much. Because monogamous folks always
Yeah.
like, well, you give up this year, you give up this thing, and you get this thing. And I was
Mhm.
like, well, why don't we just operate like we are in the moment and we get what we need in the moment, and with some thought to the future, but like making sure that we're not pushing anything aside or under the rug. And then if it doesn't continue on, it was still a worthwhile relationship to be in. Relationships don't have to go
Absolutely.
forever to be worthwhile or to
Mhm.
be important or to be something that you should put your time into. But you got to show up as you with what you want for that to be the case.
100%.
So so that's what happened at that hotel thing, and then we were at the poly meet and greet, and we're going around the room. This was one of those magic ones where a few other people showed up. We had maybe
Yeah.
12 people, um, and it got to I said my piece about who I was and what I was doing, and it got to Sean, and Sean started talking about being polyamorous, and I like looked at him and I was like having this moment where I just thought he was like a swinger with a girlfriend.
You're like, "Oh, oh."
He's such a I don't know, like, he's very cis het. He's a big guy, he, like, gives off those vibes. We hadn't gone to those extra vulnerable places yet, and so to me, he looked like someone who was married and had a girlfriend, and now we were at the hotel. Like, it didn't occur to me that that was poly, or that he would see it as poly. But that
That's
was quite an
amazing.
eye-opening moment for me. So yeah, every time there's only 5 people that show up, like, you facilitated that. That was that was a real, like, that we had some conversations after that one.
That
Yeah.
makes me so happy. I love that so much. Like, "Oh, here's what we're actually doing," as well as all these very fun things.
That kind of makes more sense than the narrative I had in my head. Yeah.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Yeah.
Amazing. I love that.
Yeah, that's probably it. I mean, pillow talk, um, We did get onto the CBC top 50 Canadian nonfiction books that you should read this spring. Yeah, which is a
What?
pretty huge honor. So we've been getting some good
Yeah.
accolades. Um, but the reviews are kind of like people are a bit stumped. So
Uh,
people out in the I don't know, the normal world that we all have to go back to regularly. Um, Even when they want to promote it, so every other book on that list got like two sentences, like, and ours got one because they didn't know what to say about it. Um, and then like there was an interview. Heather, the creator, did an interview with John Ackerman of City News Vancouver, and he was like, "What stories really did you really resonated with you?" And she mentions my story, and he says, "Oh yes, that one was particularly racy," and moves on very quickly. Like it's somehow we need to get into the world of people who are like it's great to get those mainstream reviews.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm not convinced that if they read the book that they were able to like it's like forcing people to read something that's not for them. So somehow we need to
Mm.
find our market of people who can write the reviews but who are into it. Otherwise it just feels a little non-consensual.
So that's the call to action here, if you're
Yeah.
listening, is read Pillow Talk and go leave a review.
Yes, please. Yeah, and if you've got a local bookstore, if you're lucky enough to have a local bookstore, ask them to get it in.
Yeah.
Because it is available online. It is available on Amazon, but mostly just so that people can get it. Because the real goal of this book is to help these stories reach the people that need to hear them. Like
Yeah.
if I had had this book growing up, poof. I mean, I love where I am now, but you know,
Could
if
have
I
gone
could have got
faster.
there, yeah, 10, 15 years ago. And we often hear this in the swing around too. Like people come up to me and they're like, "Oh, you're so young. I wish I'd known this." You know, and in my mind, I'm looking at the 20 somethings going, "I wish I'd known this when I looked like that."
Right? Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's we just want these stories to get yeah, to as many people as they can. Because
Amazing.
it's not often that you get a lot of sort of nonfiction talking at arm's length about the topic.
Yeah.
This is like we hid around the corner from the guy who was peering in the window watching us have sex. It's like, oh yeah, yeah, that stuff happens. That's a little weird.
There it is.
Yeah, yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. I so appreciate you coming on the show and sharing your stories and your story.
Thank you for having me. Yeah,
Of course.
I will get the juicier. Like literally, I left out the fluids. Like a lot of the really hilarious stuff when I was trying to think about what story to write. A
Right.
lot of the hilarious stuff in the swinger open realm is in the graphic detail. It's sex is
Yeah.
pretty awfully hilarious most of the time.
Yeah.
Um,
Bodies doing body things.
yeah, so add in extra bodies and add in strange places and new people and all sorts of hilarious stuff happens. But the humor is in the graphic details, so I'll have to save
Yes.
that one for the fiction.
Yes. Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks for having me.
Of course.